Welcome to Cars on Call. The episodes involving younger people are over. No more young car guy chronicles because we have Dr. Stephan Moran back. We're the only podcast with a trauma surgeon who's done research on car accidents or car crashes and has operated on
That's
many,
right, not accidents. Man,
many car crash victims. So welcome back, man. You got a glass of wine and you're looking good.
I'm feeling good, looking good. I have way more energy than last time we podcasted together when I was seriously jet lagged from come back from Japan, man. That was brutal. It took like 2 weeks to recover from that. So going there was easy, but coming home was tough.
Yeah, you have jet lag and a sushi hangover. It's rough.
Yeah, that's right.
Sushi and sake hangover.
Yes.
So welcome back. Well, we're going to talk about a safety rant. I guess you're gonna have a rant, and you're going to talk trauma surgeon safety, and then we're going to talk sedans maybe making a comeback, some car spotting, and if time allows, what is Steve-O driving? But I'm going to start with your rant because you said I got something to say.
I got something to say, but you got to ask me about this
Oh
t-shirt
yeah, your T-shirt. It says "Go to the Nick," I guess.
or the devil will get you.
What does that mean?
So my daughter gave me this, and in Alabama, there's two very famous things that you may have probably never seen. But if you come up I-65 north of Montgomery, Alabama, on the side of the road is this giant sign that says, "Go to the church or the devil will get you." So it's a famous sign in Alabama. It's been there all the way back to, I can remember, like 1979. And so that's,
So "Go to the Nick" obviously refers to Nick Saban.
no, that's no. So let me make this bigger. So there's a very famous bar in Birmingham, which is underneath the overpass, called the Nick, Nick. It has been there since probably the 60s. And in the old days, remember they had the chicken circuit, which is what people did, like the blues artist, Motown artists, where they'd get in buses and they'd drive city to city to city in the old days and do these tours. Well, Birmingham is between Atlanta and New Orleans. So as a result, bands would play the big shows in Atlanta over the weekend. On their way to New Orleans to play, they would stop in Birmingham and play at the Nick. So you
Wow.
say, "Oh wow, yeah, yeah, the Nick. That's really, I mean, who played at the Nick?" Well, let me give you some name of some bands in their infancy that played at the Nick. And let me find it here. I got it. I want to get it right. I had it here. There is famous bands that have played at the Nick. Okay, you ready? Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jane's Addiction, Black Flag, Widespread Panic, The Black Crowes, Weezer, My Morning Jacket, Soundgarden, Sonic Youth, The Strokes, Drive-By Truckers, Maroon 5, and U2
Wow.
have all played
Holy
there.
smokes.
They
Is
were in
that
their
near Muscle
infancy.
Shoals?
No, it's in Birmingham. Buster Shows is north, but so these are all the famous bands that played there when they were basically one step above a garage band on their way to being famous. So
Wow.
you have to be from Birmingham, Alabama to get this shirt. And people, I wear this shirt in Birmingham. People kind of smile because the last time I went to the Nick, my daughter talked me into going, and we got home at 3 a.m. The bar never closes, except for
Wow.
maybe like half an hour when they clean it up once a day. And that's it. But otherwise, it's open like 23 hours a day around the clock, 7 days a week.
Wow. I
It's a
love it.
very cool place, famous place. But yep, I got a rant.
All
You
right. I want to
ready?
hear your rant.
All right, so I fucking hate funeral processions that have police escorts. Just, I hate them. Let me tell you why.
Funeral.
Funeral processions. So, you know, you're
Got it.
talking about you're going down the road, all of a
Yeah.
sudden people are slamming on their brakes, they're slowing down. In some of the southern states, they pull over, and then you've got these motorcycle cops that are just hauling ass, stopping at the intersection and holding their arms up to get people to stop. And then they haul ass to the next one and they ping pong the whole way. And to me, I'm like, this is just an absolute disaster waiting to happen. And, I'm going to talk about disaster, but also for me personally, it's just a pain in the ass. I think it's stupid. But yeah, we'll get to that. But I'm going to talk
The
about what
obvious, the obvious question, Stefan, is what's the rush?
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, they're dead. They're
They're
dead already.
dead.
They're dead. Why hurry? So, so they'll run, legally they'll run red lights as a unit, which can be, I don't know if you remember in the old days, there'd be like 20 to 40 cars, and you'd wait and you'd wait. I'm like, this is just ridiculous. And, but when you come to an intersection, there's a green light, your brain is telling you go. So what happens is you come to an intersection and there's a green light. All of a sudden, your brain has to go, whoa, 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 stop. There's a cop with lights, there's cars. I'm supposed to stop. So your brain is going to automatically pause because our brain has memories. Green lights mean go. Okay. Your brain has to form a new memory and assess the situation. And if you're looking at your phone, you're a little distracted talking to somebody, your brain is going to pause even longer processing that information subconsciously. So it's a bad idea. And when you've got heavy traffic scenarios, it's even worse. So people are slowing down, law enforcement, they're driving like maniacs. So there's two issues really going on here. Number one is, as you said, all right, there's already a dead person in the procession, right? We don't need to add another dead person. Well, the question then becomes, is this road behavior dangerous and is this unnecessarily causing crash injuries and death? So I ran some statistics. So from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, over a 10-year period, they found 46 police motorcycle crashes out of total 4,985 police motor crashes. So only 1%. So the investigator,
What did the two numbers mean? You said
so
it's 46 out of, what does that mean? What is the 46 and what is the other one?
so there are 4,985 motor cops, policemen on motorcycles, law enforcement that crashed.
Every
Of
year?
that, over 10 years. Over
Okay.
about 10 years. And over that 10-year period, about 46 of those crashes were involving a funeral procession.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So the investigator said, yep, fatal escort crashes are shocking and rare. But here's the question. If you're going to die in a crash, is the number of one, an N of one, is not a very big data set, but that's shocking, okay? You don't want to be the dead person, right? So if we're going to, like Volvo wants zero deaths on the roads by, they keep having to move the time up. Well, 1%, okay, that's still 1%. That's 46 people that unnecessarily died for a dead person. That makes no sense to me. I mean, from statistically standpoint, yeah, let's get rid of the DUIs. Yeah, let's get rid of texting and driving. But is it necessary to have motorcycles flying up and down, ping-ponging for a funeral procession? You have to ask yourself, is that worth the life of 46 police officers over 10 years? I'll tell you, absolutely not. It's not. Okay? It's just simply not. So they do happen. It's uncommon, but 46 is too many. And it takes me back to the thing where I had to present. We had the famous school bus, I don't want to say famous, infamous school bus crash in Huntsville where school bus went off the interstate, 46 kids on the bus, and I forgot how many we had die. It was too many.
It went off a bridge on the interstate.
An overpass. It was
Overpass.
a
Yeah.
elevated interstate, and they got knocked off the road by this kid in a little car. They went over and landed straight up and down on the nose. We had multiple deaths, and then I had to testify before the governor's panel on why we do not have seatbelts in school buses. Well, here was my point that I made. Contrarian as always, the amount of money spent to put seatbelts in school buses is the wrong emphasis. For every one child killed in a school bus, 7 die on crosswalks getting to school. Put the money where the 7 die. Okay? The one's important, but to put the money where it is. So now we're down to just 46 cops. You have to ask yourself, is it worth the funeral processions, the cost? Would people have to pay for the cops to do that? Is that worth the cost of 46 lives? I'll tell you, absolutely not. There's no hurry, Steve. Like you said, there's no hurry. And so it's the civilian drivers like us failing to yield an intersection. They're confused about the right of the way. Your brain is confused when it's green and go and you have to stop. Now it's interesting. I went to look what states have done anything about this. What you can honestly say is since you and I were kids, Steve-O, there's been a marked number in the times you've had to stop for a funeral procession.
A drop, yeah, a decline because
A
everyone's getting
decline.
cremated. Well, I think it's
I'm
true.
being I'm being cremated. Absolutely.
When
I'm
we
actually
were
being turned into rocks. I'm not doing cremation.
when we were kids, funeral processions were very, very common. Without
Yes.
there was no police escort, but they were very common. They are much less common. And I'm sure it's because people will all get cremated.
Right.
What do
So
you mean?
courts and
What do you mean turn into rocks? I didn't know that was an option.
yeah, it was on Shark Tank. So you know
What?
quartzite, yeah, you know quartzite countertops in your kitchen.
Yes.
They're artificial granite, right? It's called quartzite. It's
Right.
artificial. You can actually have there's a company in California when they start that you can have your ashes turned into these quartz-like rocks. They mix it with chemicals because it is illegal to carry or transpose of human remains. You can't go to your favorite beach and pour your loved one's ashes. That's illegal. You can't do that. But who gives a shit about rocks, man? It's a rock, okay? So I'm getting turned into rocks. We'll throw a couple in Smith Lake. We'll bury one at the shop, throw one in France. And each kid can have me as a pet rock, okay? And they can do whatever they want with it. If they don't like it, they just throw it out. But they're not going to put my urn in the closet. No, hell no. They're not going to put it on the mantelpiece. And then all those movies where somebody knocks over the urn and the ashes spill. No, no, no. And I ain't getting buried in the ground either. That's stupid. I don't.
Your kids could take the rocks and they can throw them at a funeral procession.
Exactly. So here's what's interesting. Tennessee and Florida, for finally one thing, plaintiff ambulance chasing plaintiff lawyers did a good thing. In Tennessee and Florida, plaintiff lawyers won cases against the funeral home and against the police for crashes caused by the funeral procession. So, you definitely don't want to do that in Tennessee and Florida. You could be fined liable. So I think that's very good. El Paso, Texas is the only place that is banned escorts. Now, cities like California and New York have set limits on escort behavior, basically meaning they can't speed, they have to obey all those signs, and they have to use their flashers. So that is a procession under control. And I think that's just the way it needs to be because me personally, I find it an incredible annoyance in the South when people pull over. It's it's ridiculous. So I think they need to go away. And in some places they are. And for one time, we can thank the lawyers for making something progress in the motor safety world. So that's
I
my rant.
I completely agree, Stefan. If a police officer dies, you know, hustling to the site of a domestic violence episode or a school shooting or something like that, we can all understand that. But when there's no emergency, when this is literally, a procession going to a graveyard, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, you're right. This is one of those things that it should be, it should be zero. And it's like in the hospital, there are certain situations they say it should never happen. It's a never event. This is a
Great point. I
never
forgot about
event.
it. It's a never event. You're right. That is, even though it's I like that. That's a great analogy. So for listeners, there are certain things that happen in the hospital that are called never events. And basically, if your patient like gets a bladder infection from a catheter, basically Medicare says we're not paying you for it. That's on you. But it's
Or you
based
take
kind of
off the wrong leg.
or you take off the wrong leg. Yeah, we're not paying for that operation. So I like that comparison. That's a great analogy. Yeah, so to me, this should be a never event. Just make it go
Yeah.
away. That's 46 young officers and their families suffering, going through this pain and suffering for a dead person. Makes no sense.
Yeah. All right, well, let's switch gears.
Okay.
I want to talk about sedans. Somebody we both know said, I'm never going to drive a Ford Fusion. If Ford and GM do not sell sedans. GM actually does. They sell the CT4 Cadillac and the CT5 Cadillac. Otherwise, it's all SUVs and crossovers. Ford sells no sedans. They famously had a very, very successful Fusion sedan, no longer sold. And GM said, hey, we are probably going to bring back the Chevy Cavalier. The Cavalier was a very small, compact Chevy sedan that was sold 80s through the 90s, even into the 2000s. So they're going to bring back sedans, is what they're saying. I think they never should have left. You know who sells a lot of sedans? Honda sells a lot of Accords.
Hyundai and Kia.
Toyota sells a lot of
Oh,
Camrys.
Candice.
And then, yes, Kia and Hyundai, the Elantra, the Sonata, they sell a lot. And I think Ford and GM have looked at that and said, hey, wait a second. This is not a dead market. I think they thought it was gonna be dead, but it's not dead. And I think that absolutely it's a good idea. They should bring back, I think, a mid-size Toyota Camry size Chevy and a Toyota Camry size Ford. The Fusion was that, and I would love to see those cars come back. They're talking about bringing the Camaro back. I love that. Ford sells their Mustang. Why not sedans?
Let me bring up, yeah, I totally agree. So Jim Farley has a podcast called Drive, and so Jim Farley listeners, he's the CEO of Ford, fantastic guy. He's made some decisions that didn't turn out, but he was talking with Spike Ferriston on the Spike's Car Radio. They talked about that. And Jim Farley made the comment. He said when everybody made the switch to BEVs, they thought so, and every company in the world made all the switch to electric. He said we thought we were in the seventh inning of the game with EVs. We all made the switch. He said, looking back on it, he said, we were wrong. We were in the first inning of the BEV market. I'll guarantee you, Jim Farley, I know you're not listening, but his decision, I don't know, he was there. 2020 was the last time they made a Ford Fusion. That was a seventh inning decision.
He was not there when that decision was made.
So that was made before him. That was a seventh inning decision. Looking at the way SUVs were exploding in the market, Ford should have never done that. You're absolutely right. That was a seventh inning mistake. Very comparable and exactly like what the companies did with the BEVs.
Yeah, the CEO made that decision was Hackett. I forgot his first name, maybe Bill, but he was formerly CEO of Steelcase, and they make office cubicles. So he had no automotive experience. But I would say this, and I think this is really the bottom line. I think CEO Hackett made that decision only with the approval of executive board chairman Bill Ford. I think
Yes, you're
there's
right.
no
Yeah.
way that would have been signed off on. I think that decision had to be approved by Bill Ford and was approved by Bill Ford. But
Steve, do you think that decision was made because we know the profit margin on SUVs? Do you think the profit margin they saw on their F-150s, their Explorer, those profit margins, because the profit margin on a sedan, entry-level sedan is not big. So they're
probably
like,
zero.
let's focus on the profit margin vehicle segment, which was SUVs. But what I will tell you is the person that can afford a Ford Fusion gets a promotion in 5 to 10 years, then may move up to an Explorer as they get a family. But you've got to, I think, it's important to capture customers at the entry level of affordability, and they will move up with your company. And I do believe in people that are dedicated to brands. I'm a Ford guy through and through, and it bothers me there's not a four-door option. Would I buy a four-door sedan at this point in my life? No, but my first sedan, my first hatchback was a Honda. There were no Ford hatchbacks at the time, or maybe the Fiesta or something awful like that, but nothing in that comparable segment. But I think it's
We have
important for.
our business, which is medical, has lots of employees. We got about 160 employees. There's a lot of entry-level sedans in our parking lot. Most of them are the Hyundai Elantra,
Yes.
Toyota Corolla. And then, people move up, but they have to have a place to start. I completely agree with you, Stefan. I think it's a mistake. By the way, what I'd say to Ford and GM is, okay, you phased out sedans because they make essentially no profit or minimal, very minimal profit. You make all your profits. This is true for GM and Ford. They make all the profit from full-size pickups and full-size SUVs.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a good idea to phase out the sedan, which makes minimal profit. That's a bad idea. So you want to get rid of keeping sedans is a bad idea because it makes minimal profit. but having BEVs that lose $10,000 every single vehicle, that's a good idea?
Yeah, great point. Yeah, I mean they lost the billions. I heard the other day, if you take the worldwide loss on the conversion or transition, rapid transition to the BEVs by Porsche, Volkswagen Group, Ford, GM, Stellantis, it was an unfathomable amount of money. I mean, it was
52
probably
billion is what automotive news said. $50 billion
$52
box.
billion dollars. That's a lot of sedans.
That's a
God,
lot of sedans.
52 billion. I mean, holy man. So imagine this right now, listeners. Imagine if tomorrow turns to 2000, the crash of 2008, after these companies had to write that BEV write-off. There'd be automotive manufacturers that would not survive that. Or they'd have to get bailed out like GM did by the government in 2008.
Or how about this? In 2005, we had Hurricane Katrina. As a
Ah,
result of Hurricane Katrina, gas went from $2 a gallon to $5 a gallon overnight, and it stayed there for about a year. People were selling their full-size SUVs and full-size pickup trucks for pennies on a dollar just to get out of them because they couldn't afford to make their monthly payment and buy gas.
and oh, the way, the Strait of Hormuz might be closed for Brent oil crude. No Brent oil crude going through. But we're gonna see the ramifications of that time, the processing that fuel.
And
People are
gas is
going
already
to
more expensive.
be
And
that's
and
already
you're
is
right.
going to go up because the supply we're energy independent in this country supposedly, but Europe isn't. Nowhere, nobody else in the world is. Gas prices are till that strait opens. Gas prices are going nowhere up but up. And the minute it opens, the prices are not going to come down because that oil has to be transported from the Middle East to the factories and converted. That is a several month lag, 3 to 6 month lag. So prices are
Yeah.
going to go up. People are going to be wishing they had and that commute to work. Like they're going to wish they either had a BEV in or a hybrid, or they had a sedan that got 30 miles a gallon instead of my truck, which gets 19.
Yeah, a Hyundai Elantra. Although to your other point about the Straits of Hormuz, somebody made a point I thought was absolutely hilarious. He said, everyone's always talking about the Straits of Hormuz. No one ever talks about the gays of Hormuz. What about them?
Oh, dude.
I wish I could take credit for that. It's pretty funny.
That's very funny.
All right, so
All
uh,
right.
what was your car spotting? You didn't even hint at what this was, so I assume you
Oh,
have a good car
yeah.
spotting.
Okay, I'm laughing. I'm laughing. Let me pull this up. I have a good spotting. Here we go. So,
Wow.
what I'm showing you is a 1965 Galaxie. So, the Ford Gal talking about sedans. This was kind of their mid-size sedan. The Ford Galaxie 500 came out with a brand new model in 1965, and it was a complete hit. I know for you, a lot of younger people may not remember this car, but this car was a big deal. The 65 Galaxie. It was a family car. It came in a two-door, four-door. It came in convertible. But just like at the time of all the hot rods, you could also get a 65 Galaxie stripper car with nothing in it, but you could get a 427 side over. So
Wow.
my buddy Ed Terry, he's a retired Air Force pilot. He flew F-117s. Ed's got three Galaxies right now. He's also got a Shelby GT350. He's got a C7 Corvette. He's a total car guy. But he just bought this and it is absolutely gorgeous. I got a ride in it. But so that's the first picture. You can look at this one. He's got the reproduction drag racing fiberglass hood. Look closer. It's got the vents on the front for the intake. He does have disc on the front. But here's the 427 side
Wow.
roller. And this is a hot. So for your listeners, there was the FE Ford engine block. It was the big block Ford motor, which is a very famous motor. It came as what people knew as the 390, and it got bumped up to 427, 428, 429. But this is a very famous engine in Ford lore because it did incredibly well in NASCAR. It was a drag strip motor. And the thing about the 427 side oiler was it's the same block, but this engine was made for NASCAR racing at high RPM, so they put a extra oil channel on the side of the block. So you can, on the side of the block, there's a bump that you can see this channel on, and so that's kind of side oiler. For you total gearheads out there, this if you look at this picture of the motor, he's got a high-rise intake with dual, so he's got dual carburetors on this thing with a high-rise intake. That means there's
Wow.
8 cylinders, 4 cylinders have a carburetor, the other 4 have a carburetor. And what you get is a much better mixing of gas and air mixture. So I'm going to go to the next picture here and we're going to play it. I'm going to let you hear the sound of this because I want.
Okay, go ahead, do the cutout.
Hopefully you can hear this. So what I want you to listen to, listeners, is the thing, if you think about it, you've got 8 cylinders and the 8 cylinders each get a spark to light the fire. So there's an order in which those cylinders fire. So
Right.
you can kind of make them run in a circle back and forth. But the unique thing about the FE, which we don't have anymore, it kind of goes side to side. So when you stand behind a car that pulls up and you hear bop, 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 and it's going side to side, only the Ford FE does that. And if you're into exhaust notes, you like the sound of an exhaust, but the minute you hear the side to side bop, 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 that just adds another level of whoa, this is just really cool. So this is the motor going in my Cobra. So this is an FE block, the Ford FE block 390. It was bored out and stroked to 445. And I have 8 individual fuel injected carburetors, which is called an 8 stack on my engine, made by a famous guy. I'm hoping you can hear this. Anyway, but it's a very cool sound. So that was cool car from Ed.
It's in great shape. It's a beautiful car.
Beautiful car. So that was my car spotting. We get together about once a month, eat breakfast together, and a couple of us, and we all drive in. And either our Bullet, our Mustang, the other guy's got a 65 coupe that he drives in, and we have fun and talk to people in the parking lot about our cars.
Hey, before I talk about the press car I drove recently, which was very interesting. Yeah, go ahead and minimize that picture thing. But I want to say a word. You did a long and very detailed analysis of a 205-mile-an-hour crash on a public road
Oh
in
yeah.
Sun Valley, Idaho. And we didn't have information about the passengers, but the skinny on what happened was this is a sanctioned event. These cars are allowed by the police on a closed road to go as fast as they can. This was a 991.2 generation Porsche 911 Turbo Cabriolet convertible. And the car crashed, and the driver and passenger were severely injured. Both survived. And at the time, we didn't know what happened to the driver. We knew the passenger was heavily injured, especially his legs, but his brain was okay. And we wondered about a brain injury. Well, I went to an event in Boise, Idaho, a Porsche event, and saw the survivor. He has visible injuries on his right arm. His voice is a little raspy because of the tracheostomy he had, which of course is to help you breathe as you recover. But he's otherwise fine. He's got a limp. We had a great conversation, no head injury. And he showed me the video, the in-car video. He was going 211 miles an
Oh,
hour.
he had the in-car video.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it had the passenger was reading off the speedometer. So you hear him say 207, 208, 209, 210, 200. When it hits 211, all of a sudden it goes haywire. So
Shit
anyway, he's
happens
okay.
fast at 211 miles an hour.
So I told him your observations, which you outlined in that podcast that we did together. And I told him, I said, this trauma surgeon said that a couple things that save you was number one, the fact that he went into the bushes on the side of the road and then was propelled upward. And he said, oh, yeah, I went more than 30 feet up into the air vertically. And then I said, the fact you're going end over end probably saved your limbs. But I
Yeah.
also explained to our listeners about how a seatbelt works because I explained that to him and he was fascinated. He didn't know about the how the tightener happens and then everything after that.
Right. So when you're in order to pass uh, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's crash test, where they slam a car into a concrete barrier and they measure the injuries to your chest and your head, they have to have a seatbelt on you that slows you down in the crash until you strike the inside of the vehicle. What's going to happen is you are going to strike the vehicle when the car happens. Or if you think about it, if your seatbelts were made of stainless steel and you hit a barrier at 30 miles an hour, those seatbelts are not going to move and they're going to basically cut you in half. They're going to crush you because you can't move. That is no different than if you didn't have a seatbelt, you're sitting on the bumper and you hit the concrete barrier at 30 miles an hour. So the idea of the seatbelt is there's two things that happen. Number one is when the vehicle senses a crash, it fires off what's called a pre-tensioner. So if you've kind of got the seatbelt a little bit loose, you kept pulling on it because it's irritating you, or you're a little bit out of position, when that vehicle senses the collision, that seatbelt has a literally a like a not dynamite, but like your airbag fires, and that seatbelt pulls you into the seat.
It's like an explosive device.
An explosive device, yeah, very good. I was thinking yeah, M80 firecracker or whatever, pulls you into the seat. So now you are in the best position that you can be. Now there are vehicles, some of the old Mercedes S classes actually would change the headrest and change the seat. If you were way reclined, the seat would start to come up to get you into the best position possible to survive the crash. And then once this crash starts to happen, the seatbelt will then start to decrease the load on your chest to help you ride down the crash.
So
Because you
basically
want,
pulls you tight and then stretches as
and
you
then
move forward.
the material stretches, and then the belt stretches, decreasing the load, timing you to then enter the airbag. And then the airbag takes that over to help you continue to ride down. Then the airbag basically deflates, but then you still got your belt on, keeping you in as best as possible. A 3-point belt, which is what we have, lap, shoulder, is not made for this kind of collision. Okay, that's why racing belts are 6-point belts. Okay, this is well, and some have underride, some have knee. NASCAR have guys that keep their elbows in. So this vehicle exactly when he went up, but you think about it, this was not one crash. Ran off the road, hit the bushes, flew up, hit end over end. Each is sequentially a separate crash in of itself.
And
But
that
what
the
happened is
pre-tensioner only triggers once.
once exactly, and then the load tensioner comes down into the airbag, then the airbag is gone. Now the seatbelt, all it has is its spool to retract back, and then it will lock and not let out anymore. So the seatbelt, and then so the minute you're tight in a crash, but if you lean back, the seatbelt's going to rewind and then it's going to relock. Rewind, relock, rewind, relock. That's why if you take your seatbelt, you notice you got in your belt where all of a sudden you're locked in, you gotta like get it really loose to get it back to overcome that locking mechanism. But the other big thing, the reason he survived is it's called dissipation of energy. So the more
Right.
the pieces fly off a car, the more it disintegrates, leaving you in the safety cell, the better your chance of surviving is. Because that means is all that kinetic energy is going into the parts flying off instead of you and the safety cell versus the seatbelt versus the steering wheel versus the dash.
What one point that you made that I also told him was it took a long time for him to go from 211 miles an hour to 0 miles an hour.
Right,
He was
right.
flying through the air and hitting the bushes, but it took a long distance and a long time, as opposed to the creator of Call of Duty, the video game. He was not going 211 miles an hour. It looked from the video like he was going maybe 65, and he crashed. He went from 65 to 0 in like 6 inches and he died. This guy goes 211 miles an hour and he survived.
So I've talked about it before, but that's called delta V, the change in velocity. Basically, if you're in a car crash, the longer it takes you to come to a stop, generally, there's always going to be exceptions, but generally the better off you are. Think about it. You're off the interstate at 80 miles an hour and you go through the grass and you start hitting scrub brush and you go 100 yards in the scrub brush before you come to stop, you're going to survive. You come off that interstate, but you hit the concrete abutment and you go from 60 to zero, like you said, in milliseconds, you're not going to survive. But we call that delta V, the change in velocity. Or in F1 and NASCAR, they talk about how many G-force crash was it. When Bortoleto crashed, it was a 50 G deceleration. 50 times the force of gravity deceleration. That is massive. I mean, that is just scary, but the wide seat belts, the underride, their position, the capsule in the vehicle, all those are why we haven't had a lot of deaths in F1 or even NASCAR.
Wow. Plus, it helps to be young.
Yeah, well, yeah,
These
yeah.
these F1 drivers are, 19 years old or something, and that helps too.
So,
All right. Well,
great,
obviously,
great.
so happy that this
Yes.
man, who's a really good guy, lives in Boise. So glad he's okay and he's alive, and his nephew, who was in the passenger seat, is also alive. So,
Wow.
all right. I want to talk, what is Steve-O driving? We haven't done that in a
Oh
while.
yeah, that's right. What is
I haven't
Devo
had anything too
driving? We haven't done
interesting.
this in a long.
This is interesting. It's a Maybach Mercedes SL. It's this kind of cherry red. It's got a gray.
So tell the listeners that can't see the picture what a Maybach SL is.
Okay. The Mercedes SL is their two-door, two-seat convertible. Now actually has mini seats in the back, so it's kind of a four-seater, two plus two. They've made the SL since the famous 300 SL of the 50s, and they still make it. And I don't know what gen it is, but probably Gen 8 or something. Anyway, this SL is a Mercedes, but when Maybach is Mercedes trying to, BMW has Rolls-Royce they own. That's the top of their range. Volkswagen Group has Bentley. Mercedes doesn't really have anything, and Bentley and Rolls-Royce are both above Mercedes. So
And
Mercedes
they're
is
killing it in
fine.
sales.
They're doing great. Bentley and
Yes.
and and Rolls-Royce are doing great. Very profitable for BMW and Volkswagen respectively. So Mercedes has been trying to do something. They actually, back around 25 years ago, created a new brand. Just like Toyota and Lexus, they said, all right, we're going to have Mercedes and Maybach will be sold separately. Again, that was also around the same time that Rolls-Royce and Bentley started, you know, becoming popular. And the Maybach brand, unlike Rolls-Royce and Bentley, did not succeed. So they said, okay, instead of having a separate brand, we'll just have like this upper trim level and charge a lot of money. The regular price of a Mercedes SL is 120 to 150. This Maybach Mercedes SL, the sticker on it was 233,000. Boy,
Woo.
understated it is not. The
Yeah.
fabric roof, if you look at it, has a bunch of M's, and then
Let me see.
the black roof, the black hood. I'm sorry, the hood is just kind of goofy looking. It's just weird to have a black hood. This is very NBA and rapper. There's nothing understated about it. It's got a white interior. If you scroll down, you'll see the white interior. Oh my gosh. Imagine keeping this clean. How do you keep those carpets clean? White carpets? There's no way that's going to be clean. So, that's the job of the guy you went to high school with that's now in your posse that goes to either to the recording studio where you do your rap albums or to the NBA games. So that guy who gets paid just to hang around, he's going to be cleaning those carpets. You'd have to clean this every couple of days just to keep the carpets from looking shabby. It drives like the regular Mercedes, has a little bit more power. It's a very fast car. The regular Mercedes SL, which I've also driven, is a fast car. This car is faster, and it's extremely luxurious. It's extremely nice. But wow, people look. You really do get a lot of attention in this car. This is not for introverts. Would I ever buy one, even if I could afford it? Absolutely not. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely.
You know what I would say about this is when you open the door and it says Maybach or Maybach, that should say Mansory.
Oh, that's great.
Or
That this
Mansory.
is
So tell the listeners what that means. That's a diss. Tell them what that means.
Mansory is a very popular sub-brand, and what they do is it's an aftermarket, not tuner, but aftermarket, I don't know, changer. And what they do is they take any vehicle, but it's always like a Bentley or Rolls Royce, and then they change the color, a very garish interior, different wheels. It's very popular with footballers in England and Europe. These soccer players have these Mansory cars. Boy, that's a great analogy because that's exactly what it is. It's you take an SL and you make it less tasteful, less elegant, but very showy.
There it is. Sure. So here is an example of a Mansory. So Mansory is you are rich, but you are nouveau riche. You got no class. You got no taste. But you're telling everybody in the world, look how fucking rich I am. So you get a Mansory. Look at this. Is this not that tackiest stuff I mean, what they basically do is they bolt on all these aftermarket parts
Right.
like a South Miami model. And oh, it's just awful. They're just and to me, the Maybach is, look at this. The the Maybach is the Mansory of Mercedes. It's just tasteless
It's
at that.
Mansory light. It's
It's
Mansory light.
Mansory light.
It's Mansory light. And my father used to always say classy with a capital K. And
Yes,
that's what these are.
absolutely.
Classy with a
See with a
capital
capital
K.
K. Dude, you gotta, when you do your write-up, you gotta say that.
I will.
Classy with a capital K. Mansory light. I mean, it's brutal, but if I had that kind of money, and I did not know this, that Mercedes has like Porsche has a thing called something wishes where you can
Sunderwench, yeah.
thunder wish,
Special wishes.
special wishes. So I actually talked with Tommy, a friend of guy who's got a bunch of cars. We talked about him in the past, but he has a client who always has S-Class Mercedes, and she does Mercedes special wishes, which I did not know they do. And he said she has done some really tastefully nice interiors and colors through Mercedes. It's got a different name, whatever they're special. But if I had that kind of money, I'm not buying this tasteless Maybach thing. I'll do the special wishes Mercedes, just like I would with a Porsche, and get something that's people look at and they'll go, and they do the double take. They walk by your car, they stop, they turn around, and they look at it again and go, wow, that's pretty cool. Why is that different? This thing they walk by and they're like, oh my God, that is just tasteless.
Yeah, I've always appreciated that the Germans will get the nicest spec Mercedes and then delete the badge. So
Yes.
it's the opposite. It's the opposite of showy. They delete the badge on the really nicest expensive Mercedes, and this is the opposite. I mean, imagine a white interior is fine, but Mansory will give you a lime green interior or a bright orange interior where everything is lime green or bright orange. But this is all everything white is just stupid. You can't keep it clean,
Yeah.
and it's just I hate to say it, but it's the opposite of tasteful, tasteless. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's tasteless. It's not that bad. It didn't
So
look that bad, but it's just something that you're going to get noticed, and it's for the extroverts.
so listener, Steve-O's wife is the last person that wants to be noticed. So what did Elisa, how was she riding around with you for the weekend in this thing? Did she kind of like pulled her little wide brim hat down over her eyes, or what did she think about
Well, it helped a lot that we were out of town. Uh,
it? None of her friends exactly, yes.
Nobody, she's not going to see them when she knows. Uh,
Yes.
she, she was amused. She thought it was really kind of silly, and the white interior, especially the white carpets. She just Of course, it's the opposite of her personality.
Absolutely. That's why I was thinking, like Ellen, I don't know if Ellen would even get in the car, you know.
Well, if you bump into someone that she knows, you say, "Hey, listen, I got to be honest. I did it because I got this because Ellen insisted on it."
Yeah. It was the favorite one she saw at the lot.
So anyway, that's it
Uh,
for Maybach Mercedes. They don't sell a lot of these. I drove a GLS Maybach, same kind of thing, white interior, very garish, very showy. It's very Palm Beach and not very the best neighborhood in a town like Annapolis, Maryland. They're not
right,
going to want this,
right.
and it's certainly not Arley, Alabama, but it's you know,
Yeah.
it's is it Palm Beach, Florida? Probably.
Yeah. Yeah. If you trade up your wife and she's, to somebody 30 years younger and she's got stilettos and a lot of aftermarket parts, this is what you're gonna buy for her.
Yeah, that's a good point. Your wife won't like it, but your mistress will think it's great.
Yeah. Oh, mercy.
All right, well, let's
All
wrap
right,
it
dude.
up and yeah, say goodbye. I'm
All
glad to have
right.
you back, Stefan. I'm glad the old
I'm
guys are back.
Old guys are back and I've got some renewed energy much. But hey, everybody, thanks for listening. Remember to hit subscribe. That way you'll get notified when we have a new episode, and you can even click download automatically, so it'll be there for you to listen to. So, all right, dude, we'll catch you soon.